35 minutes until lock before the early slate commences. And I don't know whether we're going to keep this as one stream or just or stop this and then relaunch it. We start talking about the main slate. Both slates have 5 games. Both slates have pretty much equal contests. So we have two completely distinct, handy little slates to play. I'm going to be playing both DraftKings and FanDuel on both of them. And we did update sheets for the early slate, although there are a couple of substitutes that have not been accounted for. So, Rich, you're saying I feel really shaky playing Peralta. That's the way it always seems to be with Peralta. I didn't do this on purpose necessarily, but the way it worked out for me is I'm playing just a lot of Peralta on DraftKings, and I have an incredible amount of Cincinnati on FanDuel. And it's actually something that I thought about when I first started playing DFS, and it's something that really hasn't been. I don't think it's been examined to the degree that it should be. The idea of portfolio management across sites. When people ask, how much of a certain player that you have, sometimes say, well, I have 37% on DraftKings and 42% on FanDuel or whatever it is. But exposure as, just as a portfolio across all sites, because if you think about it, one of the reasons why you play multiple lineups, if you do that on, say, in DraftKings, is you want to have as many combinations as you can, sort of, within your bankroll limits to account for the variance in the inherent sport that you're playing. And then when you do play on another site, you do have the opportunity to extend that portfolio. So when you play both DraftKings and FanDuel, I think it's something that hasn't been really examined too much. The idea of how to combine the two sites to come up with an exposure profile that is sort of efficient. Now, again, you're going to have different pricing and different everything else, but I think it's interesting. So when I was talking about, Bobby, before you came on, I was responding to Rich B's comment about Freddie Peralta, and I commented to him that it just kind of worked out this way. I do have just a lot of Peralta on DraftKings, and for no other, I don't know why, but I'm kind of happy about it. I have a whole bunch of Cincinnati on FanDuel. So that's just the way it worked out. Maybe they're just cheaper over there. And I just get them a little better. I feel comfortable with that as kind of a hedge fund manager. You know what I mean? Because what it is, I didn't do it on purpose, right? I didn't say, "Ooh, I have so much Peralta on DraftKings, I better get Cincinnati and FanDuel." Just given the numbers and the way it worked out, like each of those individual lineups looked good, and the fact that they can have some negative correlation with each other, it's even better. So I kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah. I understand doing some of that. A lot of people. There's a lot of talk in general in the DFS industry about, do you hedge? Do you do that or not? Or is that a bad general strategy? I just think it really depends on the situation. It's interesting because I didn't get to any Peralta. I'm not playing a ton of lineups today, but I didn't get to Peralta in my builds today, really.
Hey, good comeback. Hell of a freaking finish in that Dodger game, right?
Yeah, it was a great finish. Unfortunately, didn't help me in my DFS conquest.
No, I ended up winning money, but the wrong Toronto guy scored for me, and I won a little bit, but again, I needed. Even it was really funny. Even in that last inning, I was one home run away from winning that qualifier, but the one guy I needed got subbed out. I needed Merrifield.
Oh no!
Yeah, so he got subbed out, so I didn't even have the chance. But one comment I'll make is that well, first of all, I want to ask you. We didn't even talk about this. I was wondering how you ended up, not results wise, but how you ended up actually constructing your 150, because I know you played the mini max, the 150 yesterday. Yeah. We never really talked about how you ended up doing that.
Yeah, so I ended up with like I was way overweight on Logan Gilbert, which didn't work out. I ended up with, as far as stacks went yesterday, because there was 12 games, there were 6 teams that I had more than 10% of, and then 2 that I had 25% of.
No, I don't mean like who you played. I mean like mechanically what you do. Did you put groups in? Did you set for a certain amount of five mans? Did you use Saber Sim? Like what did you? How did you end up doing it?
I said I think I had 25% 5-3, 10% 5-2-1, and then 10% 5-1-1-1, and then 30% 4-4.
And did you do that on purpose or?
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I said. That's what I said as my parameters.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And look, there was plenty of opportunities for the things. And then I tried to manually, for my bigger buy-ins, obviously go through and try to smooth some things out. I actually thought it was a better 5-man stacking day yesterday than most days, but I ended up slanting a little more that direction. It probably was 60% of my lineups.
And did you use the Saber Sim projections, the True DFS projections, or Goldie's projections, or an aggregate? What'd you end up using?
I just used it through Saber Sim, but I was making my plays based on what I use the yours and Goldie for a lot are ownership. I mean, the difference between projections to me in baseball are really just minuscule, almost nothing for a given day. But I think that sometimes, occasionally, with pitching, you can capitalize on someone who's projected 3 points less than someone else, and
yes.
If you're just using the same stuff we sort of talk about a lot. Sorry, I was sort of out in and out last night. My kid was over here, and I was going back and forth, and there was some, we had his mom came by, so just a little bit of stuff I had to keep leaving there. But yeah. Anyway, what do you think of this one today?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, for the early slate, I have, I know where I'm going to be underweight to you. I don't have probably as much, not Peralta, Alcantara. I certainly won't have as much as you, and I probably should have more. I have a lot of just Ryan Peralta combinations, and then I have some kind of funny combinations as well. But at the end of the day, I have basically a shit ton of Joe Ryan, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the stacks that I have the most of, this is actually not very interesting. You would not be the slightest bit surprised. Is Kansas City and Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I just always play Kansas City, it seems. I was hoping that the Graham Williams is going to be more, or Gavin Williams will be more popular, but I guess he's not as popular as we thought he was going to be. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's always weird when we talk about popularity when on these small slates, especially because I'm always going to be referring to the big buy-ins when I say that they're going to be much more popular.
Okay.
The general thing is people talking about the lottery, which literally
that's true.
So I don't necessarily expect Gavin Williams to be as low. I think he's going to be 20% owned in probably the lottery, and I think he'll end up like 30% in the big buy-ins. So I don't think he's going to be low owned by any means.
Yeah, so I have Kansas City and Cleveland.
It's just hard to spend your money. That's the reason why he might not be owned. You really don't have to spend up hardly at all.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Chase. What were you saying?
Yeah, so my top stacks are KC, Cleveland, and Colorado, and my top pitchers are Ryan and Peralta.
Yeah, I don't have any full stacks, no 5-mans. I don't think there's any reason to today. You can make an argument, and again, people will say the correlation thing. It really only matters if a team scores enough runs on a 5-game slate like this, where you have such insane chalk on Cleveland. I just don't see it. It's how are you going to profitably play a 5-man Cleveland stack? Like I just don't see how you. I mean, if you do, you can't play Alcantara, at least one of Alcantara, Ryan, or Peralta, or Eflin. You probably can't play any one of. You have to play only one of those 4 maximum, and I would say maybe not even that. So it's going to have massive concentrated chalk. The ways to get off of it to me are one is I still think that KC ends up lower owned than some of these other stacks that I like. So I'm going to be heavy on KC, but I'm playing like 3-3-2s and 4-2-2s and things like that. KC, Milwaukee, Cleveland rate out the best for me. But Washington looks good, but it's always hard for me with Washington because when they end up getting and actually, they're not going to be as owned as I thought, but they're still going to be pretty popular. I'm always okay with taking a little bit of a fade on what's a semi-ish bullpen game. Although look, they've made me pay for it a few times. That's fine. But today, what my main lineup is a 3-3-2 stack with KC and it's KC, Cleveland, and Milwaukee, which I think Milwaukee ends up lower owned partially just because they don't have their lineup out yet. And that's just the way that we see it every time. Even though the Giants didn't end up, maybe some other people had them rated lower early in the day. Like the Giants ownership was looking like it was going to be one of the most popular, and nobody I think ended up more than like 4 or 5%. That's a big example of just what happens sometimes when teams release their lineups later. And so every minute that they release their lineup later, I think that Milwaukee becomes more and more interesting.
Did you play that super cheapo on Cleveland, the 8 or 9 hitter, the 2K guy, or no?
I don't see any reason to play anybody that down there. Like the only reason to do it would be to get different. There's just so many good value plays. Like if you look at the projections, even your projections versus player, like on the whole slate, the players who are projected to score the most are 3,800 and CJ Abrams. CJ Abrams and Bobby Witt both at the same position. Jimenez at 4K. Josh Naylor at 4,400. These are not crazy prices. And then even guys like Michael Garcia is 10th and he's 3,600. Then you've got the Julian, who's like the second highest second baseman. He's 3,300. Then you've got the entire Minnesota outfield, which is what I played yesterday, which are 21, 23, and 2,800. And I just don't see any reason except for trying to extend a stack. And I would say that in that case, I would say that it would be bad play today to try to play an 8-hitter versus the cleanup hitter for Minnesota, just because he happens to be on Cleveland. And you want the correlation, especially considering the 8-hitter is going to be 15 or 20% owned, and everybody on Cleveland will be double-digit owned. Whereas the ownership on the Minnesota guys, you're going to have you've got guys, but the guys who are batting the fourth, fifth, and sixth at 2.1, 2.8, and 2.3K are going to be like 5% owned. I just think that's a much better play, and they all have more power and more upside than any of the guys on Cleveland, than the 2K minimum guy on Cleveland. So I don't see any reason for it, except for being different in a Cleveland stack. But you're not really getting different with a Cleveland stack.
No, you're not.
So it's just such good hitting weather in Cleveland. I was prepared to maybe play less of Cleveland, but it's just 90 degrees with wind blowing out to center. And it's probably worth noting that Alec Marsh is coming off of, he had a really good game a couple starts back, but you're just trying to find reasons not to play Cleveland for me, I'm just trying to talk myself into a reason not to play Cleveland. But I think a 3-3-2 I can get away with. And my main pitchers and my big buy-in are Joe Ryan and Alcantara. I actually think fading Joe Ryan is a really good idea today, but in my big buy-in, I'm okay to go with it. In all my other ones, I will be playing. I have Gavin Williams and Irvin together just because it forced me to spend up, and I don't think anybody else is going to be pairing those two exactly. And I wanted something that forced me to spend up because there's really, really hard to get off the board with this kind of a slate. So my strategy is as usual on a 5 gamers or less. Don't need to stack, but try to get at least a 3-man of one team. My other thing is to try to force yourself into spending for the guys who seem like they might be overpriced. So that's what I'm doing a little bit of today.
And are you playing FanDuel?
No. I'll never play a FanDuel morning slate.
So I'll just go over what I have over there so that people know. So I have 45% Ryan, and then spread out. I got like Alcantara, Peralta, Eflin, then a couple with the other ones just to be diverse. Bryce Miller and Gavin Williams. And as I mentioned earlier, the stats I have the most of there is Cincinnati.
I like that to be different. I do.
Yeah, and that's so that's my my leverage against myself, I guess. Actually, that's not true. Yeah, I guess that's my leverage against myself. What I should probably do is get a couple of. I actually have a couple, but a couple of the Seattles. That's how. What's his name? At Share won like all the money yesterday with the Seattle stat. He.
Yeah, I mean, great.
Sort of won for the wrong reasons. He was. I remember he was going over. He's like, listen, I really take Seattle to get leverage against. Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez gave up like nothing.
Yeah, you're completely wrong. That's a great example. These guys are awesome at that. The winning and then usually congratulating themselves on literally having nothing to do with any of their analysis at all. Pablo Lopez was completely dominant. The Seattle thing that anybody got with, I'm not giving any credit to it at all. When you get completely shut down and dominated by a pitcher like they were, and then you end up scoring in the ninth inning with 2 outs and 4 outs, you combine, you get like 12 hits. I'm just never going to give credit to anyone for that.
I don't know. For me, I just give listen, I know whatever the history with him, but I give the guy all the credit in the world because he can do both content and play. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard. It's just so
everybody does it. We all do it. Everybody does it. We all do it. What do you mean?
Yeah, but not that many people like does that much content and actually win. I'm telling you, it's just not.
Oh yeah. I mean, no, that I know for sure. I mean, but it's not like, I mean, well, Cheese does a million things. I mean, he probably does the most content during baseball season of anybody, and he wins big time. Yeah, I just anyway, but yeah, I mean, the thing is today, like, it'd be really easy to play Eflin and Joe Ryan together if you wanted to, and maybe not worry about Peralta and Alcantara if you really wanted to go that route. The problem is I don't exactly think you're getting into an unusual build of any kind. I think those guys are going to be pretty popular together together also. And Eflin has been unbelievable. I mean, I don't know how much to buy into all this stuff, but like he's been terrific this season.
Yeah, wins this slate? I have like a lineup here with like the Bryce Miller, Jake Irvin combination with like a Seattle stat. Like that's like
Bryce Miller, Jake Irvin. Yeah, something like that maybe. I don't think it's a bad idea. Joe Ryan's been getting hit. The thing about Joe Ryan that's hard to stack, I just don't 5-man stack ever against guys like that, because he just, in general, he'll go like 5 starts in a row without a walk, like sometimes, you know what I mean? And then he'll occasionally have a little bit of thing, but you have to really hit him to get there, which used to be the story with Freddie Peralta. Just hasn't been the case as of late. He's got a little more walk happy this season. But I don't mind the idea of I would limit my Seattle to 4 or less. But I have not.
This one's pretty cool. So this DraftKings one I'm looking at right now, it's got Bryce Miller and Irvin, and then it's a 5-3 with Cincinnati on DraftKings against Peralta with Seattle against Ryan. So double leverage against the top pitchers, and obviously neither pitcher in the lineup. So that could win a 5-man lottery. That's possible. A 5-man lottery.
Yeah. And just to point out a couple of things. So if one thing I would do is if we had the sports betting thing and it was all set up and I was like able to do it easily, I would probably bet on Alcantara to be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate.
Can you do that?
You used to be able to with the prize picks and stuff. I honestly don't know.
Right.
But that's the kind of thing, like Alcantara, he's going to you give him like,
well, hold on. Let's have some fun at least. Let's see if we can't find a prop on DraftKings for him. How about that? Hold on a minute. Let me share my screen.
I'm just going to answer Rich's question. Would I say, or you can ask you, would you say Minnesota over Washington? No, I'm just not fully stacking Washington because I'm trying to stay away from the second chalk. The chalk is Washington and Cleveland. That's the only reason I would prefer Minnesota. I think Washington in a vacuum is probably a better pick.
Pitcher props.
And yes, Cleveland and KC is a decent option, but I would just recommend. I would just say that I think that Cleveland's going to be really popular, and in order to play them, like I wouldn't do a 5-man Cleveland. No matter what happened, even if I played 150 today, I don't think I'd have any 5-man Cleveland stacks.
All right, so let's have some fun. So let's see what we can get, what we can bet on here. So first of all, the vanilla one, you could do Alcantara over 6.5 strikeouts plus 120 if you want. Let's see what else. Alcantara. Let's see what else we can do. Outs recorded. We can go over 18.5 plus 120 if we feel like it. That's the over-under is 18.5. To record a win, you get plus 195.
It's a tough matchup for him to record a win. I'd like maybe better scoring pitcher.
Hits allowed. Under 5.5, you get plus 115.
Not doing that.
Doing that.
Walks, what are the walks? 0, 0.5, 1.5?
Walks, 1.5.
What's the under?
145.
Yeah.
And earned runs, under 2.5 minus 110.
Yeah, those are not, none of those are good odds.
Yeah, nothing's that particularly earth-shattering here, but there's also, let's see what else we can do. MLB. What about alternate total runs? So let's see. Tampa. Okay, so it's normally that's total runs. No, I want just their runs.
I don't want to. I wouldn't do that either, because they've got a low total. They've got a less than 4 total. Like even if he pitches great, like it's not like there's not a.
Well, what we're trying to do, we're going to try to get like odds on a shutout here, right? Let's see.
No. I have no interest.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Pitcher props.
Mr. Complete Game has not thrown a complete game this season. So.
How about the correct score exactly? Miami winning 3-1 plus 2,500.
What?
Yeah.
How is it plus 2,500? Oh, I guess 25-1. Yeah, that's actually
25-1 to win for exactly Miami to win 3-1.
For Miami to win exactly 3-1. I mean, that seems like a possibility, but I don't know.
I know. Nobody said it was easy, right? 4-2, it's plus 2,200. The only thing I promise you are all these are bad bets. I can't prove which is the other. But
yeah, they all seem like Anyway,
you should see Matt freaking go on tilt when he's watching the games. He was watching the games with me last night. You like over under like 89.5 miles per hour on the next pitch for a certain guy. It's just completely nuts.
That's funny.
He's like, well, how about this guy? This guy's coming in. Is he a fastball pitcher? He's going to throw a fastball. He was like trying to game whether Verlander was going to throw a curveball to start off with the next at bat or a fastball or something like that. It's really funny.
That's hilarious.
DraftKings, man, we got to rebuy their stock. If people like Matt continue to pile in on these live bets.
That's right.
Yeah, so it looks like nothing great over there. Okay. We get back to where I was. You can unshare this.
Can I play Massey? No. Let me see something real quick. I mean, I have the option of doing like the easy no pivot, and I could easily go 4-2-2, and I'm choosing to go 3-3-2. I don't know.
Something that you said.
Maybe a little too stubborn.
About how it's kind of hard to spend your money. Maybe.
I just switched it to a 4-2, a 4-3-1. Yeah.
I was saying maybe you could leave some money on the table today.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. It just feels like I had Monasterio in there, but now we have a Milwaukee lineup.
Oh, okay. I gotta check this. Make sure I have.
It's just hard not.
I'll be around, so I'll be able to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna play Massey over Monasterio just because he has more power. So going a little more Cleveland heavy.
Oh, what's up, Brandon? What's going on? I didn't see you in there. So I was telling them the other day that I was I don't know if you were sweating it, but in the main GPP over there in the Cup Series, my lineup, one of my lines, I was winning 100,000 for a long time, I mean, like long enough time where I was actually starting to worry about it. You know, like it was like the last like 10, like maybe like in the last 20 laps I was in there. Then they had a couple of cautions. I had but I was explaining to everybody here, it's not like baseball where you're in first place and then if things don't go your way, you're in second and third. You know what I mean? Like NASCAR, you can be in first place and then like next thing you know, you're in 400th. And that's just kind of the way it is.
Well, it's actually the same as baseball, but yeah.
I guess so. Wait, what was I just saying? I'm just gonna check my lineup to see if it gets scratched. Is this game stack of Cleveland or Kansas City a decent option?
We just talked about.
I have a whole ton of lineups that look like that actually. More with the 5-mans for Kansas City, than for Cleveland's.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. The Milwaukee lineup's out, but it hasn't populated the DraftKings thing yet. I presume Yelich is playing.
Yeah, Yelich is playing.
I presume Frelick is playing.
Yep.
I think those are the only Brewers I have.
Yeah, Frelick I have as a one-off and now in my big one. I initially had he and Monasterio, but I switched Monasterio to Massey.
Did you answer Scott saying that does the hitting weather keep you off of Williams?
Yeah, I wrote in there. I'm still playing Williams.
That's your host. I keep forgetting.
But I like the idea of going after him too. I think that the run, they're giving him a lot of respect. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see them with only a 3.9 run total in that. And look, I just think that with the Witt Perez back, that KC's lineup will still be bad, but it won't be quite as bad. So they keep getting. The totals haven't caught up with it yet. I don't feel like they should be able to run 1.6 runs less than Cleveland today. And Gavin Williams is going to be a stud. Don't get me wrong. I'm very high on this guy going forward. We still haven't really seen much of it so far. And like any other young pitcher, he's walking at guys at an insane rate. So I would take a shot. Anytime guys are missing the zone, it's usually going to lead to more home runs, obviously more runners on base. So I like that idea.
So here's kind of an offbeat Bobby Witt story.
Well, let me quickly ask Scott McCarty's question because he's only got 3 minutes left, or 8 minutes left. Is taking a 3-man? And I'm thinking you're going to think the same thing as me. 3-man Seattle against Ryan too aggressive for a small field single entry. I would say it depends on how small the field. But if it was like 1,000 players, I think it's totally reasonable. If it was 500 players, I still think it's totally reasonable. And honestly, on this size slate, I actually think it's reasonable no matter what. What do you think?
I think it's completely reasonable.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chief.
No, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a random like story for like 8 minutes before lock, but I don't care. So here's my Bobby Witt Jr. story. So back when I was in college, I mean, I used to collect baseball cards like growing up, but like in college, what was like a really big thing for whatever reason is like finding some guy and like buying like zillions of like his cards, and just trying to buy it in volume. So There were 3 guys that I bought like multiple cards of. So I bought 2,000 rookie cards at 4 cents each of Sean Hilligus. I don't even know if you know who that is.
Sean Hilligus.
Probably not because
I know the last name. I remember even how to spell it, like
Hillegas.
Yeah.
And that amount, and I think it was for like 4 cents each, and I think they maxed out at like 4 cents or something like that. He didn't amount to much of anything. Then the other one I spent at 10 cents each. I bought 2,000 Oral Hershiser 1980. What was the year that he was also 88? I bought 2,000 of those because my theory was I never quite understood why. I understood, but there was always
the rookie and not the best year.
Right. Card. I said that. Yeah, they always overpriced the rookie card, but never the year that he had the best year. So I just figured that would kind of turn around, and that didn't happen either.
It didn't happen, but I'm totally with you. I always wondered about that. It's really strange.
Yeah. And then the third one I did was I bought 2,000 rookie cards of Bobby Witt Sr. Because they did an interview actually with Tom Seaver of all people, who was talking about how important it was to have a big difference between the fastball and the breaking ball, and that was like a big metric that people are going to be looking at. And he mentioned that Bobby Witt, who was like a rookie coming up, had like a great differential between like, it's good enough for me. So about like 2,000, like Bobby Witt's at like 3 cents, and he stayed in the league for a while, but he didn't amount to much. Like he not like 1/20th the player that his son's turning out to be. So that's the Bobby Witt Jr. story. And I still have all those cards somewhere.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I have a pretty cool baseball card collection actually, but it's not quite what it was. It's been through a lot of moves and it's been in a shoebox for a while. But I used to do the opposite. I was always the gambler. I wanted to buy the packs and do all that stuff, but including buying like some old school packs. And like I've got some weird. I've got this. They have this limited Ken Griffey rookie card that we bought like after his rookie year. I talked my dad into buying it, and he gave it to me for my birthday when I was a kid. But it was like $100 at the time or whatever. And if you get one in the right mint condition right now, it's worth like 40,000. But I don't know if mine will officially qualify. I haven't had it looked at yet. But
they're real sticklers for conditions nowadays.
But it's been in this. It's all it's ever been in is this case from the time we got it, like a week after it came out. There's only 125 of them or whatever.
So this was
whether to get it signed or not, because the signing it might take down the value because some of our family, we have some family who knows him.
So this was Bobby Witt. He was actually in the league for 16 years, Bobby Witt Sr.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, and look at this. His first season, he led the league in walks with 143 walks, and in wild pitches with 22 wild pitches.
143 walks. That's a lot of walks.
That's awesome, right? How do you do that?
Crazy. So you're walking basically one guy per 1.6 innings, 1.5 innings.
No, it's only 157 innings he pitched.
Oh my God, he's walking a guy an inning?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, the next year he was like literally like 1 for 1, 140 walks and 143 innings.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That can't there's nobody in modern day baseball who would get away with that. It doesn't matter.
And yet he stayed in the league for 16 years after.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. All right, should we close this one and get the night one going?
Yeah, except the last thing I will say about Bobby Witt is also 3 years after that, I think he led the league in earned runs or something like that. Or this, it's like
he had some good years though too. I think he was an all-star multiple.
Dude, let me. He pitched in the league for 16 years. I mean, it's got to have something.
Yeah, but not everybody who pitches for 16 years is an all-star. Sometimes, I guess in baseball.
It doesn't look like he made the all-star team.
Really?
Yeah.
No all-stars.
Yeah.
That's actually. You know what though? I would bet you though that most pitchers.
So check this out. Here are his salaries. I think like Bobby Witt, what Bobby Witt Jr. is making. Bobby Witt Jr. in this season is probably making more than he made in his whole career.
You mean this year, just in general?
Well, I presume Bobby Witt Jr.
Oh, Bobby Witt Jr. Yeah.
Does he have a big salary yet?
I don't think he signed the big one yet, but maybe he has.
But he will because Bobby Witt Sr. made $21 million in his career.
Yeah, Bobby Witt Jr. will make that in 1 year at some point. Maybe.
And Bobby Witt, that will be like 1/4 of what Jaylen Brown makes every year. So.
By the way, that everybody's going to knock that one thing. I want a real quick weigh in on that. It's completely reasonable. And by the time that contract where it hits its peak, there's going to be guys like everybody who's like him is going to be making 75 to 100 million.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like everybody that's going to be signing after him is like thanking him. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember when people were like freaking out about Zach LaVine getting 20 million a year, and then they called it the best contract in sports like the next year. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's so bizarre.
All right, so we can log off of this,
and then we'll do tonight, and then we'll do
and then off again, and then for golf.
Perfect.
Okay.